And welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Peter Winick. I'm the founder and CEO of Thought Leadership Leverage, and you're joining us on the podcast today, which is Leveraging Thought Leadership. Today, my guest is Andy Craig, and as I was getting ready for today's show, I was reviewing Andy's bio, and it's one of the more interesting ones I've seen. So I'm just going to give you a couple of nuggets of or elements of Andy there. So he was a candidate for U.S. Senate. He is an entertaining keynote speaker and a trainer. His personal stories about overcoming failure and achieving success are captivating, and people love listening to him. He's a master at helping people discover their purpose, vision, and destiny in their life. He's known for showing people how to deal with adversity and frustration and letting nothing stop them. And he's a business and communication skills are second to none. So lots of different components to Andy here. So welcome aboard, Andy. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you very much, Peter. It's a pleasure to be with you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Great. So why don't we start with something I like to ask a lot of people, which is basically, how the hell did you get here? Right? So, what was the linear path that got you exactly to this point in time today?
Wow, I had a feeling you might be asking me that question. That's a long question to answer there. I like to start it out with I had just finished up a seminar probably about 15 years ago now, be my guess. I was at home and I had ended a conversation with a student, a fellow student of mine from that seminar. I got off the phone with her and she made a comment to me saying, "Wow, that was inspiring." And I don't remember what it was that I mentioned to her. I was just doing my thing, just encouraging, which is what I do on a normal basis. And she said to me that was inspiring. And when she said that, I had this little epiphany take place. And I thought to myself, there's a lot of people that have told me that. Do I have this gift of inspiration? And sure enough, I have it. And that led to me starting my fledgling coaching business, getting into the speaking space. It's led to a bunch of different variations of that, but over the course of at least 15 years, if not longer, I have taken various steps to get to where we are here. But that's where it started from.
So let me ask you, lots of people sort of tell you in one way or another that you've been inspiring to them or motivating to them or, something along those lines. Lots of people might have told you that you bake a good cookie or a brownie. So it doesn't mean you'd open a brownie shop. So how do you sort of internalize that, align that to your passion, and then say, geez, what's the business side of this thing?
It's interesting you asked that because I was about ready to go into that too.
Okay.
When I got that particular comment and I connected point A to where I was in that moment there going, wow, I've got this gift here. I didn't have the confidence per se to actually go into the coaching speaking space just yet. What I did have the confidence is to actually motivate and inspire people. And so I started what I called at that time personalized motivation. And I had a friend that put up a webpage for me, and I simply marketed my services to provide motivational services to say, hey, I can go ahead and record this item for you, whatever it is that you want to hear. I will motivate you. And I got a whopping one client off of that, but it turned out to be a fantastic client. He was an author in, I think it was an automobile magazine. I have to go back. I've got the magazine somewhere. And I was able to do that for him. His wife found me online and I provided motivation services for him for, I believe it was 8 weeks. And that got me going. And that was a really cool thing for me. I felt a lot of pride and whatever the word is I'm looking for there, but validation, I guess, is probably
Right.
where I'm going with that. It was just a really cool thing to be
But
able to
that
do.
first client is the one where it goes from, man, am I crazy to, wow, someone will actually pay me some money for
Exactly.
this. Someone else other than my own, the voice in my head says, wow, this guy's got it. I mean, and it almost doesn't matter what the fee structure is or whatever, but the fact that some objective third party says, damn, I'm willing to
Yeah,
pay for that.
exactly.
That's a pretty cool thing. Yeah. So that leads to what? So you get one client, and then how do you decide directionally how to position yourself, how to market yourself? Because the gift is one thing, right? Having this ability or this skill or this innate nature that you have to do that is one thing, but crossing sort of the chasm to say, okay, there's a business here, and in order to be an effective business, I've got to market, I've got to find customers, I've got to price, I've got to productize. How do you go through all that process?
No, that's a loaded question. I don't know if I'm the right person to ask on that one. I think I'm still trying to figure that one out. That has come just over the years of just trial and error for me, quite honestly, talking to various people, getting coached myself by people that were really not afraid to stand out and do it. And I think that really is the key for me, is not being afraid to do it. Just stick yourself out there and do something. There's a phrase out there, say, do something, and guess what? Something will happen.
Give me an example then of a couple things that you've done that didn't work out, because you can learn from that, right? And so you said, "Hey, here was a great idea. I tried it, didn't work," and some others that you experimented with that have worked out. Because I think that's what we're all trying to do, right? Is figure out what the right it is.
Well, yeah. Well, personalized motivation. Like I said, I had a whopping one client. I had no idea how to do marketing, no idea how to do advertising. I just stuck something up there, and through the course of, I guess it was a great blessing of the Lord that I was able to get that one client. I have no idea how they found me. If I would have asked, hey, what was your exact Google search term that you used to find me, that would have been ideal. But I didn't have any clue what I was doing at that particular time. So that one crashed and burned hard, which wasn't bad. Just it was a good experience there.
Yep.
But from there, it's really been a matter of being around people that were going somewhere. And I just said, okay, what are you doing? How can I learn from that? How can I put that into my own space? A few years later, I met my wife, and we went ahead and moved here to, we're in the Oklahoma area. And I've just been out there talking to people, and really my coaching services have been more on the complimentary side, because I coach people on the run in a lot of cases. And it morphed into what I called, actually the previous name is really not an issue right now, but it morphed into a coaching business where I coached a few people here and there. And again, it didn't do anything, but I got involved in a speaking group. And matter of fact, with this particular audience, a lot of them are probably a part of it, Toastmasters. And being a part of Toastmasters is really where things got going for me, because that was a great place for me to practice my content, a great place for me to actually learn and talk to people and mold myself from that experience within Toastmasters. And that's really where I got my start going, got my comfort zone going, because I was never afraid to talk to people, or at least for the most part.
Sure.
But it put me in a spot where I had that exposure to really sharpen my saw, per se.
Got it. So fast forward to today, and I clearly get that there's a lot of experimentation going on. What are the various lines of business that you're actually in? So you've got the coaching, you've got the speaking. Walk me through sort of the Andy world and how those different pieces connect.
Well, I've got basically three lines, I would call it, that I do. I've got training, which is leadership. I've got my speaking, which is motivation and leadership. And then I've got my coaching side. And I actually just launched my coaching platform here within the past couple of weeks. So that is finally live there. So I've got those three areas there that I focus on. My personal passion is on the speaking side, which is something that I'm getting out there to individuals right now. I finally got that platform built so I can get that information out to people. It's taking me much, much, much longer than what I ever dreamed to get it up and running. But bottom line is, it's there. And sometimes it's those long processes that are actually the best ones to take, rather than the short, quick, easy ones. So that's really where I'm at.
Anyone who's ever said it took me half the time and was a hell of a lot easier than I thought it
Exactly.
was. In most things worth doing. So let's talk about the speaking side, because what's interesting is, if you were to go online and search speakers and all that sort of stuff, there's zillions of them out there.
Absolutely.
And there isn't necessarily a clear, logical sort of career path, right? So if you wanted to be a hairstylist, there's a path that you would take. You wanted to be an accountant, a teacher, whatever. Most professions, there's where you start, and this is the education you need, and this is the things you need to do. In the speaking world, it's not quite that cut and dry. So how does one wake up one day and say, "I want to do this, and I'm going to do this"? What are the steps that one might consider?
For me, it had a lot to do with my Toastmasters journey. And then I was out there on Facebook, and I put out there what it was that I was working on and how I was launching my speaking business. And I had a gentleman contact me, and he said, "Hey, I like what it is that you're doing." And in fact, in my particular case, that actually was twofold. I was out there working to just network, really. Mine was networking in a lot of cases. I met a lady at a Toastmasters event. We decided to do an event together, which we thought we'd have more people at. Scheduling on it was not the greatest. And so we had less than ideal show up on that one, a handful of people, but it was still a great experience. But I had a gentleman contact me right before that particular event got put on. And he said, "Hey, let me mentor you." This is the short version, by the way. "Let me mentor you. Here's the results." And so he became my mentor. And through his help, I've been able to get myself out there. I've been able to go out and look at things. I've got my bio put together. I've got everything put together. But it's really okay, I've now got my message together. You got to get your message together first and foremost. If you want to speak, you got to know what your message is.
Well, even before the message, though, the fact that you chose to dive into sort of the Toastmasters world and surround yourself with others and be mentored, that in some cases that might be Toastmasters, in some cases it might be the local chapter, the national chapter at the National Speaking Association, whatever. My point is, you can't, there's no point in trying to crack the code alone,
Oh, correct.
which
Yes.
is this is a solitary business, right? You probably don't have a lot of friends, colleagues, neighbors in your local neighborhood, or you can go to the local Starbucks and say, let's get a speakers meeting together, right? It's probably not going to happen, right? So you have to find the like-minded folks that you could learn from. And I think it's sort of implied in what you're saying, but be humble enough to have a little bit of a beginner's mindset.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And in fact, when you're around, whether it's the National Speakers Association group, your Toastmasters group, or any other group that supports speakers, just say, "Hey, I have no clue what I'm doing. What do you guys do?" Because we've got people come in on a regular basis, say, "Hey, here's what I'm trying to do." I said, "Okay, I can give you a couple of pointers. Oh, try this, try this, try this." But yeah, exactly, the beginner's mind. That's key with all of this. Unless you've been out there and you're now earning the amount of money that you want, whatever that amount is, then have beginner's mind. And even if you do have that income level that you want, it's still ideal to have beginner's mind, because you never know what you're going to learn from the person who walks in the door.
Got it. So you sort of immersed yourself with others, right? And found a mentor, got it launched and up there. And then sort of how does that continue to unpack? How do you determine these are the types of groups I want to speak for? These are the types of groups that I'm better suited for? Because there's a marketing piece. Just being a speaker is a generic term, right? So
Absolutely.
not all speakers are great for all audiences, and not all audiences want all speakers. So how do you sort of find the right fit there? Because you can give the same performance in front of two groups and one bombs and one doesn't, and has really nothing to do with you, right? Like the dreaded group of actuaries that no motivational speaker ever wants to get in front of, as
Oh
an
yeah,
example.
absolutely. The group is that's not something, honestly, I'm still honing in on, trying to figure out who my target audience is. I've got the audience that I believe is going to want my message, and then there's going to be the audience that is going to want my message. And there's a difference between the two. And in my particular case, it's really getting in front of those audiences and saying, "Okay, do you like my presentation? If so, great. Who else is like you?" Or, "No, you didn't like that. Okay, great. Let's go over here to this particular audience." And I've got my target
Well, let me add
audience.
one thing to that, Andy, which may be obvious, but I didn't hear it, is and the audience that will support you, right? So sometimes you might have some content or a message that resonates with an audience that just isn't lucrative. People, career changers or unemployed or whatever, where you could really help them, but they can't, that community can't support you. And then you have to say, geez, well, they're still really important to me, blah, blah, blah. You might have to figure out another way to crack the code financially, or only serve that audience some percentage of your time, because you have to make the money
Exactly.
in markets that support you better.
Exactly. Yeah. For me, I'm still cracking that code. And I'm still working on the marketing side there in terms of getting in front of the right people to do the right thing. I mean, I'm traveling right now as a trainer, and I'm training right now. There's a difference between the training side and the speaking side. And my passion is on the speaking side, and there's a difference between the two.
Talk to that a little bit more, because training and speaking are incredibly different in terms of the skill sets and what's involved, and underneath that the business models, the marketing, et cetera, right? And oftentimes people that speak train, and people that train speak, and all that, because there are some crossover skill sets in terms of ability to control a room, but training's a whole different game.
It very much is. It very much is. And I train on a variety of topics there, and I'm in I contract out for a number of individuals. I've been working primarily with one company here recently, and I travel and I do training for them with the content that they ask me to train on, and it works out well. It's just not in.
Right? You have to follow their
Exactly, exactly. It's their content. I can bring my own per se to help enhance it, but the core of it, it's their content, and it's a lot of fantastic experience for me, but it's not my wheelhouse. It's not my passion. And the speaking side, my passion is getting out there and revealing to individuals that they are created in the image of God for a purpose in life, that they are a masterpiece of creation, and finding that audience that actually wants to hear that, that needs to hear that. That's been more of a challenge. So that I'm doing the training side right now, and it works, and it gives me a fantastic amount of exposure to other individuals. The only downside to what it is right now, because I'm contracting with this other company, those clients are not mine, so I can't
right.
let them know, hey, here's really what I want to provide to you, kind of a thing. So it's great exposure out there, and I've got a few people that I've met across this way that, hey, they may want to go ahead and hear my actual message, my core message in the future, but it's a matter of them owning, oh yeah, I saw him over here in this particular training. This is actually what he does. Okay, cool. And but getting to that core audience, that's still a work in progress right now.
Got it. And you have to honor the expectations that have been set from the training organization in terms of this is a group and they're going to learn negotiation skill, whatever
Exactly.
whatever's been told to them. And your ability to be creative is somewhat constrained. You can be somewhat creative, but you got to hit the notes, right?
Yes, exactly.
It's not your gig. So that being said, compared to other things that you can be doing from a income standpoint, it's closer to speaking than not. So there's lots
Yes.
of benefits. Right, so you're still in the arena, if you will.
I'm in the arena. Yes, I haven't hit the bullseye that I'm choosing that I want to hit, but I'm very much in the arena, and that's what the reason why I chose to go the route in terms of training for this organization is because, hey, at least I'm in the ballpark. At least I'm heading in the right direction.
So as we start to wind down, and I appreciate your honesty and transparency in terms of where you are on the journey and the trials and tribulations and all that. What are maybe two or three things that you would throw out there for someone to consider based on your experience if they were just moving down that path of saying, waking up today and saying, someone told them you inspired me, and they've got that little cloud bubble over their head that you had that said, geez, maybe I should do this. What should they be considering?
If they're wanting to go into that space, I would first and foremost encourage them to join some sort of a speaking organization so they can have an environment in which to hone their skills, whether it's the National Speakers Association, your local Toastmasters Club, or something else that's out there that's in your local area. Join a club that's going to support you in developing your content and honing your skills, do all that. That's the very first place to start. From that particular point, figure out what your message is. If you don't already have it, figure out what that message is, because you can't go anywhere if you don't have a message. Once you've got your message, you got to figure out what your audience is, and that's easier said than done. At least for me, it's easier said than done. Everyone talks about who's your niche audience, who is it that you're targeting to, and if you've got that figured out really quickly, fantastic. I'm still working on that one. There, you've got a better situation on that one. It's all a matter of asking the right questions, and at least for me, I haven't been able to ask myself the right question at the right time to go, okay, laser focus. Here's my target audience. But you do need a target audience there, and I think that's something that all speakers are working to refine as they move forward there. So get that target audience, and then just go ahead and get yourself out there. And if you need a place to start, then look at some of the organizations that are providing contract training, contract speaking. There's a number of them out there. And my journey on that one began with, I decided one day after I was in a meeting with a guy that was coaching me there. And he said, if you don't like your results, you're not asking yourself the right questions. And I went, oh, I'm not asking myself the right questions. What do I want to be doing? And so that led me to look into contract training side of things. I found 5 companies, and then I whittled it down to 2 companies, and then I made the choice of the company that I'm contracting through right now. And that's an avenue for an individual to go, which is actually a really good place to start. I remember years ago, I had read an interview or listened to a podcast like this of some individuals that started along this line of contract training. And I said, oh, that's a great way to go. I had no clue who to talk to at that particular point. If I would have, I probably would have gone that one years ago rather than as recent as what it's been for me here. And I would have been further along the path of what I am now, but I was clueless at that particular point. So those are a few pointers in which to go right there. Hopefully that helps out the audience a little bit there.
No, I love it. I think it is quite helpful. So I appreciate you coming on board today and
Absolutely.
sharing the journey, the good, the bad, the ugly, and I think one of the themes that I took away from today is really this sort of growth mindset, this ability to learn from others and not be shy, and surrounding yourself by others that are already doing some of the things that you want to do, and an ongoing level of experimentation, both on the content side and finding the right audience. Those are two of the big things I took away from today. But I appreciate your time today, Andy, and thank you for sharing with us.
Absolutely, Peter. Thank you very much for having me on.
To learn more about Thought Leadership Leverage, please visit our website at thoughtleadershipleverage.com. To reach me directly, feel free to email me at peter@thoughtleadershipleverage.com. And please subscribe to Leveraging Thought Leadership on iTunes or your favorite podcast app to get your weekly episode automatically.